Ogdensburg is a city in St. Lawrence County, New York, United States. The population was 11,128 at the 2010 census. In the late 18th century, European-American settlers named the community after American landowner and developer Samuel Ogden. The city of Ogdensburg is at the northern border of New York at the mouth of the Oswegatchie River on the south bank of the St. Lawrence River. It is the only formally designated city in St. Lawrence County, and is located between Brockville, Ontario to the west and Massena, New York to the east. The port of Ogdensburg is the only U.S. port on the St. Lawrence Seaway. Ogdensburg International Airport is located south of the city. The Ogdensburg-Prescott International Bridge, northeast of the city, links the United States and Canada, with a direct highway from Prescott to Ottawa, the capital of Canada. History. This was ancient territory for thousands of years of indigenous peoples of varying cultures. By 1000 CE, Iroquois-speaking people were settling along the St. Lawrence River and practicing agriculture, as well as hunting and fishing. The earliest French explorers recorded Stadacona and Hochelaga, villages of these people in the early 16th century. But later explorers found near the end of the century that the villages were abandoned and nothing was left. Since the 1950s, historians, linguists, and archaeologists have found evidence of a distinct people, now called the St. Lawrence Iroquois, who inhabited the areas along the St. Lawrence River from before 1300 until the late 16th century. They spoke Laurentian and were a group distinct from the later historical Five Nations of the Iroquois Haudenosaunee, who emerged along the southern edge of the Great Lakes and were based in present-day New York and Pennsylvania. By the late 16th century, the St. Lawrence Iroquois had disappeared from the St. Lawrence Valley, probably due to warfare by the Mohawk of the Haudenosaunee over the fur trade. By the time of later French contact, for instance in the early 17th century with Samuel de Champlain, the Five Nations of the Haudenosaunee, Mohawk, Onondaga, Oneida, Cayuga, and Seneca, were allied in the Iroquois Confederacy, based in present-day New York. Onondaga settlements extended up along the south shore of Lake Ontario. Both the Huron and Mohawk used the St. Lawrence Valley for hunting grounds and as a path for war parties. The earliest European settlement in the area was a French mission, built by Abbé Picot in 1749 as part of the colony of New France in North America. Located near the mouth of the Fleuve Oswego, he named it Fort de la Présentation. The mission attracted Native Americans for the fur trade, many of whom settled in the village and converted to Catholicism. Mostly Onondaga, the converted Iroquois at the mission became known to the French as Oswegatchie after their transliterated name for the river. By 1755, there were 3,000 Iroquois living at the mission settlement. By comparison, Montreal had only 4,000 residents at the time. It was bordered by a mission village, Carneywick, located on the south side of the St. Lawrence River. The Oswegatchie became known as one of the Seven Nations of Canada. The residents were hostile to the encroachments of British colonists on their territory. During the 1750s and the 7 Years' War, warriors from this fort allied with French officers in attacking British colonists in the Champlain, Mohawk and Ohio valleys. The city is near the site of the 1760 Battle of the Thousand Islands between British and French forces during the 7 Years' War. Both sides made use of Indian allies. After the British victory in the war, France ceded its land in Canada and east of the Mississippi to England. The English renamed this installation as Fort Oswegatchie, after the native name for the river. As with the other mission settlements, the British did not disturb the relationship of the Oswegatchie, as they called the native people, and the Catholic priests. The British considered this community part of Lower Canada or Quebec Province. The village remained under British rule until 1796 following the American Revolutionary War. With the northern border redefined by Jay's Treaty, the settlement became part of United States territory, which extended to the south shore of the St. Lawrence River in this area up to Cornwall, Ontario, where the border followed the 49th parallel to the east along a latitude line. The first settlers under a United States flag arrived that year in 1796. United States settlers essentially drove the Oswegatchie, former British allies, out of the area. Many went to Akwesasne or other Mohawk reserves in Canada. New American residents named the village Ogdensburg after Samuel Ogden, an early landowner. The community developed around this early settlement, which was designated the county seat from 1802 to 1828. During the War of 1812, the city was captured by British forces to end the partial blockade on the St. Lawrence River and harassment that had been conducted from the community. In the absence of U.S. troops, the local merchants restored an extensive trade with Canadian towns across the river. The community was incorporated as a village in 1817. Unlike Plattsburgh, it removed the H in the spelling of its name. The locale was chartered as the city of Ogdensburg in 1868. It is located between Brockville, Ontario to the west and Massena, New York to the east. Beginning in the mid-19th century, Ogdensburg expanded on its role as a port city on the St. Lawrence River, becoming an important trading city and station as railroads were developed in northern New York and southeastern Canada. The Ogdensburg and Lake Champlain Railroad, Rome, Watertown and Ogdensburg Railroad, and Portland and Ogdensburg Railway, all constructed lines through the area connecting the historic towns. In 1940, the town was the site of the signing of the Ogdensburg Agreement between Canadian Prime Minister Mackenzie King and United States President Franklin D. Roosevelt. This renewed the ties between the two countries after the 1939 outbreak of World War II in Europe. The celebrated German power Franz von Weber escaped from Canada to Ogdensburg in a rowboat. The Ogdensburg Prescott International Bridge was built in 1960, connecting Ogdensburg and Johnstown, Ontario. The roadways are NY 812 and on 16, the latter a direct route to Ottawa, the capital of Canada. On the United States side, Ogdensburg is not connected directly to the interstate highway system. The border crossing has unused capacity on the bridge, although it has considerable truck traffic. Volume is about 1/10 of that on the Thousand Island Bridge. Demographics. As of the census of 2000, there were 12,364 people, 4,181 households, and 2,583 families residing in the city. The population density was 2,440.0 people per square mile. There were 4,531 housing units at an average density of 894.2 per square mile. The racial makeup of the city was 85.05% white, 9.92% African American, 0.80% Native American, 0.69% Asian, 0.06% Pacific Islander, 2.81% from other races, and 0.67% from two or more races. Hispanic or Latino of any race were 6.22% of the population. There were 4,181 households, out of which 31.1% had children under the age of 18 living with them. 41.5% were married couples living together. 15.1% had a female householder with no husband present, and 38.2% were non-families. 32.3% of all households were made up of individuals, and 14.2% had someone living there alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 2.39 and the average family size was 2.98. In the city, the population was spread out with 21.3% under the age of 18, 9.5% from 18 to 24, 35.3% from 25 to 44, 21.3% from 45 to 64, and 12.4% who were 65 years of age or older. The median age was 36 years. For every 100 females there were 127.6 males. For every 100 females age 18 and over, there were 134.6 males. The median income for a household in the city was $27,954, and the median income for a family was $36,236. Males had a median income of $32,358 versus $21,485 for females. The per capita income for the city was $12,650. About 14.2% of families and 18.3% of the population were below the poverty line, including 23.3% of those under age 18 and 13.6% of those age 65 or over. Education. The following schools are in the city of Ogdensburg: Ogdensburg Free Academy, John F. Kennedy Elementary, Grant C. Maddell Elementary, SMDA. Events. The Ogdensburg Boys and Girls Club Expo is held on the third weekend in March, and is one of the main fundraisers for that organization. The last full week in July is the occasion of the annual Ogdensburg International Seaway Festival. Among the events of the week are the Remington Canoe Race, a local battle of the high school bands competition, craft shows, a classic car show, and many other events. The festival ends with a fireworks show on Friday night and a parade on Saturday morning. Notable people: Jimmy Howard, professional hockey goaltender for the Detroit Red Wings, member of the 2014 USA Olympic ice hockey team; George R. Morby, former U.S. Congressman; John Mosier, writer and film critic; Mark Valley, actor and comedian; Emmett Walsh, actor. Radio. WPAC-FM PAC 98.7, www.pac987fm.com, WVLF-FM Mix 96.1, www.mymix961.com, WRCD-FM 101.5 The Fox, www.1015thefox.com.